And today it's great to have Dominic here. You're the president at 47. It's really a pretty incredible brand in the hat space. And just overall in the in that area. And you guys have created super high quality products. You license these different teams, but the product quality is really something that a lot of people know you guys for. The designs are authentic and they carry the weight of being a 75+ year old brand, but also they're pretty forward facing in terms of what's today is culturally relevant. And you guys have really helped people and community just connect with these teams. And so I'm excited to have you here and to get into your story.
Thanks, Ben. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. So, early on, how did your passion for business and wanting to be running a company begin?
So I'm a very competitive person. For a long time, I thought I was going to be able to play in the NBA. I believed that for way too long. I was way too old when when I finally realized that wasn't going to happen, and I needed to channel my passion into winning and competing into something else. And I have an uncle who's said to me, "Hey, have you ever thought about going to Bryant, which is where I went to college?" At that point, they were really only focused on business. And I said, "Oh no, I'm not so sure. Don't know too much about that." Looked into it, ended up going there, and it just built my passion for business and competing in business, to completely new heights.
Hmm. So, how important do you think that education was? I mean, you mentioned that it was really helpful, but like, what specific aspects were so helpful?
I don't know if it was so helpful. I think it helped focus what I really wanted to do. I was always interested in business. Like we would sit around the kitchen table every night at dinner, and I would ask my dad, like, "Oh, what happened at work today? What was this? What was that? Like, why did they do that? What if they did that?" So it was always, as we sat around the table, we probably just peppered him with different types of questions about the company he was working at, whoever it was at the time, and what they were doing, and the why of all of it. So I always had an interest in it, to be fair. And then to be able to then go to, a school to learn more and be able to really understand all of the levers that went into it, what parts of it that I really enjoyed, what parts of it did I really not enjoy. It was definitely helpful, but the real education is actually doing it and seeing, live bullets.
100%. So, how did you first start to get into the industry?
So I always wanted to be in sports, and I didn't really have an easy way in. I was, I would go to NBA Summer League, which was in Boston at the time, with my resume and just hand it out to every GM, anyone in sports. I was sending emails to Pat Riley, like to try to get an internship. Like anyone, anywhere in sports, I was trying, and I did not succeed. Like that was not how I got in at all. So I realized that, all right, well, if I can get somehow adjacent to sports somehow, maybe there's a way for me to get closer to it the further I get into my career. So my first job was at TJX, the company that owns TJ Maxx and Marshalls. And pretty quickly, they had this executive training program. I went through that, and they put me in women's shoes. That wasn't a great
Hmm.
fit for me, and probably wasn't a great fit for them either. So pretty quickly, they moved me into kids licensed product. So it was,
Oh,
really jerseys for youth, NBA, NFL, all that. And that I did understand. So I was able to take my knowledge of sport, apply it to what was happening in business, and, start to see some, at least understand what was happening. Then I was able to parlay that into a job at Reebok, in what was called the sports license division. They had actually just been acquired by Adidas, so it was a dual brand division, and that's really where things took off. Everything took off from there.
hmm. So, you were involved in licensing pretty early on. What would you say it takes to be successful at licensing, a well-known IP and merging it with your brand?
Yeah. So in our business, especially in sports, the sports license business, I attribute it to like driving a road course versus driving a drag strip. When you have a brand and you control everything as relates to the brand, whatever that consumer brand is, it's a straight line. You do the same thing, repeatable. It's repeatable every year. You have different ideas, but generally, it's a pretty set recipe that you're following. It's pretty straightforward. When you're in sports license, it happens very quick. Because it's you, the consumer, and the partner. whoever that is. And the demands of what that is every single week, every single day change. The business goes extraordinarily fast, much faster than a standard CPG brand goes. So you have to be able to move quickly, be very agile, and go where the consumer's taking you, where the consumer wants to go, where the league wants to go, where the league is going, and follow it in much more real time than more of a traditional model.
Hmm. Right. It's definitely pretty different. I mean, I think that there's this on-demand angle too, right? That you have to be able to handle some of these changes that happen with teams right away.
Exactly. Like there's, I was previous to when I was at Adidas, we had at that point the rights for all of the leagues except baseball. So if there was a trade that
Mm.
happened, your whole business would shift on a dime, and you needed to be able to service that market instantly. Because people are looking for that product tomorrow. So you need to be able to set up your entire enterprise to be able to serve that very, very quickly. And there's this additional nuance that you have to deal with and you have to be thinking about all the time in this business that is a little bit different than everyone else, but it does make it really exciting. And if you do have that a little extra grit and the ability to be agile, you can be very successful.
Definitely. So, what would you say are the biggest takeaways, Dominic, from the 13 years that you spent at Adidas that have helped prepare you for what you're doing now?
The experience at Adidas is tremendous because you get to really understand what a big company is. You're not building the Adidas brand; it's already been built. In some ways, you're
Mhm.
maintaining it, and you're making differences to the right of the decimal point. It's we made this 0.2 better, or whatever it may be, whatever you're chasing. Um, but the structure of it, the people there are extraordinarily bright, and so there's a tremendous amount you can learn at what best in class looks like. And they still have, their own issues. It's by no means a perfect place, but you can
Mhm.
learn that, what a mature business looks like and how a mature business operates. So when you have an opportunity to go to a business that's less mature, at least what excellent looks like, what mature looks like. So generally where you're headed.
Yeah. Did you feel like there was a lot of risk taking going on and you were able to really innovate in ways that you wanted?
At Adidas?
Yeah.
No, no, it was a very safe place. It's because it's so big. There's some bureaucracy. It's difficult to get things done. There's a lot of collaboration that needs to take place just because of the amount of people, the amount of departments, how global it is. So no, I wouldn't say it was ripe with innovation at the time. But there's some really interesting lessons that you can learn about that as well. You can understand how brands sometimes maybe stop innovating, or they get so big that they lose sight of what they're ultimately doing too. And you want to make sure as you go into places that the next opportunity that what you want to make sure you keep, and what you want to make sure you probably don't bring with you to the next place.
Mhm. So, how did the opportunity arise for you to become president of 47 and why did you want to do it?
Sure. So um, I got a call in the middle of COVID from the owners of 47 that said, "Hey, we've heard a lot about you. We'd love to sit down and talk. We have this opportunity here to take our company, to take the reins of our company, really, to help us move it forward. We don't think we're going out of business. We think we're going to make it out of COVID, but we're not quite sure. But we'd love to talk to you." I said, "Okay, I've heard about the brand. Love to chat. When do you want to talk?" They're like, "How about this afternoon?" So we drove down there. Was owned by is today owned by four brothers who do everything together. Like I
Wow.
cannot say enough great things about them. And we talked. We hit it off right away. We had a lot of the same principles, a lot of the same beliefs, and you know a few months later, I was starting there as their chief operating officer. Really, they wanted me to just focus on a few small things. But eventually, actually, very quickly, the trust grew both ways. And I was very fortunate to be able to become the first president of the company, the first non-family member president. So it's been an absolutely incredible ride there.
Mhm. But what did your family think when you were leaving maybe a more cushion oriented position to go then to I'll repeat it. What did your family think when you were kind of leaving more of like a cushion job than and going to something a little bit less than that and taking this risk?
It's a great question. I think that they thought that, like, they knew I wanted to do something different. So it wasn't a mystery to my wife when I said, I think this opportunity is really, is something I really want to pursue. She was extraordinarily supportive. And, it was not without risk because they were, on shaky ground coming out of COVID. But the opportunity for impact and difference making was so big. It was a no brainer for me. Like I had to do it. And I'm so grateful I did. Because sometimes
Hmm.
the risks that you take, like it's the safe way. You don't get big wins being safe.
Yeah, definitely. You got to take smart risks.
Yeah.
So you started off, as the operating officer. What do you think that you excelled at that convinced the brothers that, hey, let's have him be the first president of somebody outside of the family at the company?
I think first and foremost, when you're working with founders, you have to have a mutual trust for each other.
Hmm.
That is, if you don't have that, you don't have anything. And I trust them, to the ends of the earth, and I think they would say the same thing. So that was first and foremost, that was it. And then it goes without saying, you have to put wins on the board, and we were putting up a tremendous amount of wins. Like our business has grown, we've almost tripled in the last 3 years. So it was really about executional excellence and connecting all of the dots of the company to be able to unleash this brand that was untapped for so long.
Hmm. So, there is this, significant heritage with the brand. It's, I think, 77 years old today. How do you balance, Dominic, the aspects of this rich heritage and of the history behind it and the legacy aspect while also being innovative, pushing design forward, being digital first, and trying to really scale it to a new consumer?
Yeah, that's a great question because you have to be authentic to what the brand is. And and that's something we talk about all the time in our four walls is, we can't be something we're not. We can't be something that people, sometimes people coming from the outside and they say, oh, we want to go in this direction. It's just not who we are. So we have to remain
Mhm.
authentic to what we are, what the brand is. And that is very much focused on quality product that has a timelessness to it. And we're not going to do anything that's not us. We talk to a lot of other brands that are in similar positions to us that get adopted by, different fat areas of fashion. And they all say the same thing. You have to remain true to yourself because if you just chase this hype culture that exists, you won't last very long. So first and foremost, we want to be the product sits at the center of everything we do. And we want to make sure that we create the product that is authentic to us. Then where you sell it, whether it be, expanding digitally, telling better digital stories, engaging with consumers in different ways, bringing the brand to different countries. We're in 35 plus countries now. That's just
Mm.
expanding the story and bringing it to new consumers. But the core of who you are has to remain authentic and has to remain true because if it doesn't, the consumer sees right through it.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, your brand has to represent something, and that truth has to be seen by people that are going to buy it for sure. So, you talk a little bit. You just before you talked a little bit about like the design, how the design is so important. What goes into coming up with new designs, and how do you come up with different designs than what other maybe brands that will license these teams will come up with themselves?
Yeah, we have very, very talented designers, and they are never short on ideas. And we have a process that's built. We allow them a lot of space and time to ideate and come up with new ideas, new designs, whether it be new silhouettes. Like we have 2 new silhouettes that we've launched in the last few years that are now taking headwear by storm. And it's because we allow them the space to innovate and we push them to innovate. We never settle for just continuing with where we are, and we're not happy with where we are. We always want to keep growing, keep competing, and keep taking market share. And you don't do that by continuing to launch the same product year after year. Like, people get tired of it. You have to be coming up with new and fresh ideas, and we allow our designers the freedom to do that. Now, sometimes they go to a place that's maybe not authentic to us, and we have to scale it back a little bit and bring it back. We don't want to stifle the designers. Like, we want them to be able to push the boundaries and push the limits and deliver what the consumer wants.
I think that's a good approach. Yeah, you have to have that creative freedom to even come up with these ideas.
Yeah, yeah, and you have to give them the space because they're not short. They're never going to run out of ideas, but you have to give them the space to be able, in the forum, to be able to bring them to the table and work together as a team collaboratively to, to refine the idea to bring it to, ultimately have something that's really, really successful for the consumer.
Mhm. So, Dominic, how do you see the relationship between being like direct to consumer brand, selling products online, or like the retail presence? Like, how do you see that the balance there, as well as like where do you want to kind of take that next?
So yeah, I mean, the 47 is a very late comer to DTC. They didn't come up, they didn't launch their website until 2016. So very, very late to the
Mm.
game. But fortunately, we've been able to, have quite a bit of success once we've got those that train on the tracks. We view DTC, of course, it's is the place where the consumer can come and discover our best product. Because there may be, for a
Mhm.
variety of different reasons, why wholesalers can't tell our story completely. Maybe they're not going to buy the whole collection. Maybe they don't have space for the whole collection. Maybe the price points that we may be going after with some of these items aren't perfect for whomever their consumer is. But it allows the consumer of the 47 brand to find the full offering, our best product, and be able for us to be able to tell the stories of that product to be able to ultimately build our brand. So whatever we sell on DTC, which at this point, we're thrilled with how big and how well we're supported there, is whatever it is. As long as it's a vehicle for people to discover the best of the brand and us to be able to tell our own story, that's where we found the biggest benefits. Because it just
Mhm. And have
drives,
you been
it drives the flywheel back to wholesale, which increases the business there as well.
hmm, have you been surprised by some of the best selling items that you've had through direct to consumer that it's maybe been different from wholesale?
There are certain items that that do surprise us, yes, especially on the non-licensed side. Like we launched like I'll give you a crazy example. We launched a very understated classic dogs collection that was not licensed, and
Mhm.
every week there's multiple breeds of dogs in our top five. It's Yankees, Dodgers, dogs, Golden Retriever, Poodle, whatever it is. So it surprises us that one what the consumer is interested in, but it gives us incredible insight of, all right, well, if they're interested in dogs, then what else, how does that shape what we do next? And if it's a great source of data that we can mine to be able to then go create the next big winners. So it does surprise us, though. There are certain things that of course you expect, are tried and true and have been the winners for the last 25 years. But as we do new things and we see them, percolate up the sales sheet into that top 10, it's incredibly valuable information for us to create new products.
Yeah, definitely could be unexpected for dogs to be that high.
It surprises us every week, and it's been going on for about a year. And now we have dog apparel, and it's allowed us to do all sorts of new things and try things. And the other thing that's great about your own DTC site is it's a great place to experiment. You can try. If it fails, the cost is very low, but it's a great place to experiment and test and generate great data to be able to make better decisions.
Mhm. And how does like the licensed products business, which like you can get like a lot of awareness because these brands, these teams are established, they've been around for a while. Like, how do you funnel that towards like products that aren't licensed and just are your own?
I think if people love the product, no, there's nothing unique about the licenses we have or the rights we have. People love the product. People love the quality of product, the finishing details of our product, and because of that, whether they love it, our hypothesis, and it is proven true, is if you love it with a Boston Red Sox logo on it, and then you're going to love it with something else you have a passion for, or you might love it with no
Mm.
logos on it. Our number one selling item, actually, that I failed to mention when we just spoke, just a plain black cleanup hat. So no
Huh.
logos, no nothing. So people aren't expressing anything. It's just very understated. So if they love the quality of the product, they generally love it with whatever they're passionate about, embossed on the front of it, or maybe with nothing on the front of it.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, so it's just make a great product, good product quality. If they wear it licensed, they'll buy it without, or as long as the product's great, people be
Exactly.
interested.
It really is just about ensuring that the consumer can trust you that you're creating the highest quality product.
Hmm. And Dominic, what are some of your maybe goals, right now? What do you aspire to accomplish at this point with the brand and then also like personally?
Yeah, so the greatest accomplishment we have is we've built a great culture at 47. So
Mhm.
maintaining that, continuing to enhance that culture, having it be the place that people want to work is like, that's what gets me charged up every day. Then, secondly, we want to continue to become a globally recognized brand. I think we're just scratching the surface of what the possibilities can be there. Like we do sell in a lot of countries, but compared to some of our competition, there's a tremendous amount of white space. There's a lot of new markets that we have not entered in. We're still we're still really in the second inning of the growth of the company. We have so much more we can do, and it's just how do we get to it all, and how do we prioritize it all? What's most important? Because if you start looking at the list that we have, it's the growth potential is through the roof.
hmm Yeah, I think there's a lot in terms of like going global. Like, what are some of the strategies that you're thinking of how to really scale this out to more than the countries you're already in, and also increase your presence in the ones that you are?
It's really about storytelling. The brand story of 47 is incredible. Two immigrants come over on the boat from Italy, start selling roses and pennants outside Fenway Park, get on the Harry Truman's Freedom Train in 1947, realize that they're selling American flag and Americana uh, all over the country. They realize, hey, if we created this product and we put Red Sox on it, I think we'd have a real business here. And they basically at that point they invented the sports license business that went from pennants to trivets to they put the Red Sox logo on anything they could. Then in 1980, the Chicago Cubs come to Fenway Park, see what's happening. They say, hey, will you do that for me? And now instead of doing it for one team, now they're doing it for two teams. Now they're selling it to all 30 teams. Now they're putting it on hats. Now they're putting it on t-shirts. And it all over the course of the last, 75, 77 years has gone from, the Harry Truman Freedom Train to this globally recognized brand where if we can take that story and export it to all of these countries, the story of grit and, the American dream, we really feel that the consumers everywhere will be able to relate to that, understand it, want to be a part of it.
Mhm. Are you looking at like licenses of like different teams in major countries that you want to expand to, and like trying to like focus more on like kind of licensing the internal culture and bringing it there versus like the American culture bringing it there?
Yes, we have some great relationships already. We have Arsenal, Liverpool. When you're talking about European soccer, we had a long partnership with AS Roma. So yes, we have a partnership with some of the Japanese baseball teams. So yeah, we want it to be both American sports exported, the 47 brand on its own, and whatever is locally interesting to those countries, also having including that in the mix as well. The Yokohama Bay Stars in Japan is just one, for instance. Their owners were with us just recently in our office, and the momentum that we have with them is just one, for instance, is absolutely tremendous. So it's very important to be able to be localized in your licensing as well, and because that's what the consumer wants there.
Mhm. And just the last question I have, like, Dominic, what are you most excited about from like a product creation standpoint? Like, what areas are you most excited to build in?
We're very excited about what's happening in our women's product. We
Mhm.
we we know that that's an underserved market. Historically, brands have just, they just shrink it and pink it. And that's all they do for women's product. They're just shrinking men's product and coming up with a pink colorway and moving on down the road. That is not at all what we want to do. We want to create women's product for women, a variety of all different types, all different consumer types, and we want to be able to make sure that we really super serve that consumer. Kids is another area of focus for us. We've had a lot of success there with the quality of our kids product, and we just consistently see people reaching out to us online for more of it. So you'll see more of that from us as well. So it's really just expanding from what was a very men's dominant business into women's, into kids, but very much still focusing on headwear and apparel.
Definitely sounds good. Well, Dominic, I appreciate you coming on, taking the time to do this. I'm definitely excited to see what you guys do next. I think that people know the product quality of 47 is pretty unrivaled in the space, and it's very high. And I'm sure that that's going to continue, and especially in these new areas that you expand into from product creation as well as how you scale globally. So I look forward to seeing what comes of that. Thanks.
Great. Thanks so much, Ben.